Graceland just roped off the meditation garden overnight. Spiderweb cracks glint across Elvis's marble like lightning frozen in stone. Staff whisper, faces tight, clipboards and hard hats flood the path as experts fan out with scanners and hushed urgency. Something shifted here. In minutes, I'll show you the discovery beneath the king's grave that forced an emergency announcement and why it could rewrite what we thought we knew about his final resting place. Stay with me. Elvis didn't just choose a burial spot, he shaped a sanctuary. The meditation garden is the soft heartbeat of Graceland. Fountain hush, roses trimmed to a ritual edge, candle wax ghosts from midnight vigils. Fans arrive like pilgrims, tracing the same path year after year, whispering thank you into the morning air. Birthdays, anniversaries, first visits, last goodbyes, every stone seems to carry a memory pressed into it by millions of hands. Behind that quiet devotion is a daily choreography of care. Groundskeepers slip in at dawn to broom the paths, polish the marble until it catches the light, prune the magnolias, and test the fountain's steady rhythm. Security paces their silent loops. Staff collect notes and flowers with gentle precision. Ledgers fill with arrival stamps from every corner of the map. The garden isn't just maintained, it's curated, guarded, and honored, an unbroken routine that says, this place matters, and that's why a single disturbance here sends shockwaves far beyond the gate. Any threat to this ground isn't just a maintenance issue, it's global heartbreak, headlines, and high-stakes decisions for the estate. Tours, travel plans, insurance, preservation funds. Even the mythic calm of the garden itself, all hang in the balance when something feels off. Which is why, when the first signs appeared, phones lit up, whispers tightened, and people started asking the one question no one wants to answer here. What's happening beneath our feet? Just after sunrise, a guard on the first sweep slows, then stops. Along the marble, new lines glint like frost, thin and branching, too clean, too sudden. He radios once, voice low. Within minutes, stanchions appear, velvet ropes unfurl, and a quiet circle is drawn around the trouble no one wants to name. Visitors are steered gently aside. The garden's morning hush turns watchful. Management arrives without the usual chatter. Clipboards and calm faces, eyes scanning the stone. A discreet call goes out. By the next hour, plain vans ease to the curb, and engineers step into the garden like librarians entering a sacred archive. No announcements, no drama. Just a swift, practiced choreography of caution. Boots soft on gravel, cases snapped open, laser levels blinking to life. The tension hangs on 6 words. It wasn't here yesterday, right? Patterns spiral outward from the center, faint but undeniable, as if the marble had exhaled overnight. Phones rise, not for selfies, but for documentation. Tape measures stretch. Tiny pins mark points no one saw before. Tour whispers ripple. What changed? Why today? And beneath the polite murmur of the crowd, the professionals trade glances that say everything without saying a word. At first it felt like rumor. Groundskeepers marked a few spongy patches along the path. Earth that sank a fraction underfoot and never quite sprang back. By the weekend, the lawn seemed to bleach in perfect halos, rings of tired grass that traced shapes no mower had made. Night shift started noting sounds on the log, a low timbered groan, like distant wood bending, drifting across the garden when everything else was still. Then came the colder air that didn't match the weather, thin ribbons of chill that slid over bare arms and vanished a step later. A plinth that always faced due east woke up one morning, skewed by a hair's breadth, as if someone with careful hands had nudged it, then reconsidered. The marble crew swore they left the surface bone dry. Dawn answered with shallow puddles pooling in clean, impossible circles. Bronze that usually weathers slowly began to bloom with corrosion, and then re-bloomed days after being polished, like a stain refusing to forget. Piece by piece, diary by diary, the garden collected these little contradictions until even the skeptics stopped saying, coincidence. Whatever was happening, it moved with intention, traced patterns, echoed rhythms. It isn't random, and that's the part that kept everyone looking over their shoulder. Back then, nothing felt stable. In the raw days after 1977, Grief spilled into crowds and headlines, and the story of Elvis's burial turned chaotic fast. There were rumors, break-ins, even a brazen attempt to disturb what should have been untouchable. Out of that turmoil came a hard decision: bring him home to the one place that could be watched, guarded, and loved properly: Graceland. The meditation garden wasn't just landscaped, it was consecrated by necessity and by the steady footsteps of family and fans. What followed reshaped the estate. The garden became a family cemetery and a global shrine, where tourists turned pilgrims and silence did most of the talking. Security plans hardened. Rituals took root. The space invited tenderness, but was woven with vigilance. Quiet cameras, protocols no one noticed. A standing promise that peace would not be disturbed again. People came to grieve, to celebrate, to stand near the myth and feel something like closure. Which is why any tremor here is more than a maintenance note. It's a threat to memory itself. Graceland can never allow another crisis at Elvis's resting place. Not after what happened, not with what this ground means now. So when the first warning signs surfaced, small, deniable, easy to explain away, the response wasn't casual. It was immediate, layered, and absolute. Because the garden must remain what it became after 1977, sacred, secure, and beyond scandal. Management hit pause on any public statement, insisting on full reports before a single word left the gate. By mid-morning, white tents sprouted like mushrooms, cords snaked across gravel, and discreet sensors blinked along the perimeter. Access narrowed to a quiet corridor. Staff guided visitors with soft apologies and practiced smiles. Inside the cordon, clipboards filled, radios murmured, and every footstep felt measured, as if the ground itself were listening. Outside the ropes, speculation roared. Tour whispers braided into rumors. A sink, a shift, something they found last night. And phones captured every guarded glance. Guides kept their tones calm and neutral. Security kept their answers even shorter. You could feel the air thicken, a blend of garden roses and warm electronics, tent fans droning, a scanner chirping like a heartbeat. Whatever was happening wasn't decorative, it was diagnostic. Then the clock started. A press conference, official, on record, was placed on the calendar, and with it came the flood. Media vans plotting routes, fans booking flights, forums spinning theories by the hour. The estate promised answers after the teams finished their tests, and that single promise turned the garden into a countdown. When the microphones click on, the story will travel everywhere at once. Until then, all we have is the riddle, and the eerie sense that it's bigger than anyone expected. The instruments arrived before sunrise, ground-penetrating radar gliding over the pass like a quiet tide, then the hollow thud of coring rigs easing into the limestone. Readouts began to stack, irregular voids where there should have been solid bed, pockets that answered the radar with a soft echo instead of a firm reply. Technicians marked the plots with discreet paint and small flags, and every new flag felt like another breath drawn in the garden and held a second too long. Samples told a sharper story. Trace pathways of water had been threading through the stone for seasons, carving what the eye couldn't see, accelerating in wet months and leaving behind delicate ceilings ready to fail. Above, fine stress fractures webbed through the foundation like hairline frost, almost pretty until the calipers bit down and the numbers turned cold. Even the marble felt the weather's teeth, freeze, thaw, and the slow, invisible press of moisture working its way inward. The quiet conclusion, subsidence isn't a rumor, it's a timeline. Mineral crystals blooming in micro cracks, voids widening by degrees, the surface settling by fractions you only notice when you measure twice. No sirens, no spectacle, just a steady drift in the wrong direction, the kind you can't wish away. The risk horizon isn't some far-off century, it's measured in years, not decades, and the garden knows it. Beneath the garden, nature keeps its own map. Limestone stitched with channels that carry water wherever pressure insists. Recent years have pushed harder, heavier bursts of rain, longer wet spells, groundwater rising and falling like a tide under stone. That slow pulse forces moisture into places it was never meant to linger, loading the subsurface with stress you can't see until instruments translate it into lines and numbers. Back in 1977, the builders planned for dignity and permanence, but not for today's weather whiplash or decades of minute vibrations from millions of footsteps. Materials that were once comfortably within their limits now live closer to the edge. Moisture seeps into hairline fractures. Then winter writes its lesson. Expand, contract, repeat. In that cycle, tiny mineral crystals bloom like frost inside the cracks, prying them wider a grain at a time. Quiet, relentless, unromantic. Engineers can run the math on drift rates and fracture growth, and the models agree on one thing. Without intervention, the risk curve tilts the wrong way. You wouldn't notice the change day to day, but year to year, you'd feel it. Alignment shifting, loads migrating, the kind of settling that turns whispers into warnings. Bottom line, doing nothing is not an option. The estate's draft statement is spare and clinical, but the subtext lands like a drumbeat. Immediate closures, phased access, and a restoration window measured in months, not weeks. Teams will be working inches from the most sensitive ground in Graceland, a grid of scaffolds and survey lines tracing paths no visitor has ever seen. Words like stabilization, remediation, and structural scope under evaluation replace the garden's usual poetry. And for the first time in decades, the plan includes contingencies that reach right up to the edge of the marble. For fans, it means a different kind of pilgrimage. The approach will narrow. Barriers will define where reverence begins and where work must continue. Instead of quiet pauses beneath the trees, there will be timed entries, controlled lanes, and a soft perimeter of signs asking for patience. You'll still hear the fountain, but over it the steady murmur of equipment, the polite chime of radios, the faint tick of instruments reading what the eye can't. It's not closure in spirit, but it is closure in practice, and it will feel strange. To soften the distance, the estate is preparing live feeds, daily briefings, and careful explanations of each step, from the first drill whisper to the last stone polish. The closest thing to transparency a sacred place can offer. And yet the headline remains stark. This is the first extended interruption since the burial. For those who planned a once-in-a-lifetime visit, for those who come every year on the same date, the announcement doesn't just change logistics, it tugs at the ritual itself. What prompted all this will be addressed when the microphones click on. Until then, the garden waits behind its quiet lines, asking for a little more time. The plan reads like a surgeon's checklist. First, temporary steel shoring slips under the vulnerable spans, quiet braces taking the load so nothing shifts a millimeter while work begins. Then crews thread slim drilling wands into the mapped voids and push a carefully balanced grout deep into the limestone, sealing hollows you'll never see but would certainly feel if they failed. Above ground, a redesigned drainage network hides in plain sight. Subtle channels, slope corrections, and smart sensors with backup power that report moisture, flow, and pressure in real time. Waterproof barriers, invisible once finished, shepherd water away from the memorial, while conservators turn to the surfaces themselves, coaxing the marble and bronze back from fine stress and premature aging. Every repair is matched with restraint. The guiding rule is simple: fix what must be fixed, preserve what must be preserved. Stone specialists will lift, reset, and rejoin pieces with artisan precision, leaving joins that disappear to the eye but endure under scrutiny. The mandate is authenticity. The finish must read as original, the patina as honest age rather than fresh gloss. Even hardware choices lean conservative. Reversible methods, archived documentation, and test patches approved before a single permanent step is taken. None of this happens without resources and trust. The estate is preparing a transparent budget with third-party oversight, milestone audits, and public progress summaries so fans can see where every dollar goes and why each step matters. There's talk of a dedicated preservation fund, matched gifts from partners, and a global call-in for supporters who want their names recorded. Not on plaques, but in the quiet ledger that keeps sacred places standing. The message between the lines is clear. This will be done once, done right, and done with the world watching. When the work is done, the garden won't just be repaired, it'll be watched over like never before. Slim sensors will nest beneath paths and within discreet housings, tracking moisture, ground movement, and temperature the way a pulse ox tracks a heartbeat. Data will stream quietly to a central console, comparing today's numbers with last week's and last year's, flagging any drift long before an eye could catch it. Think of it as a stethoscope pressed to sacred ground. If the soil sighs, if the marble cools a shade too fast, if water lingers where it shouldn't, the system raises a hand. Early warning is the new ritual. Thresholds will be tuned to whisper before they shout. Tiny changes in subsurface pressure, hairline shifts in alignment, a sudden cold pocket on a warm night. Maintenance crews will get alerts with timestamps and precise coordinates, turning mystery into manageable tasks. This is the promise written between the lines of every schematic. The garden will be guarded not only by people who care, but by instruments that never blink, never sleep, and never forget a pattern. And that's the heart of it. Protection built for the next 100 years. The legacy stands if the plan holds. Schedules met, budgets honored, oversight firm, and the work finished with the patience the place deserves. Fans will still lay flowers, stand in the hush, and feel that old, impossible closeness, but now with the quiet assurance that the ground beneath is listening, steady and sure. Keep your eyes on the clock and the microphones. When the final update comes, it won't just be about repairs, it'll be about keeping this promise. Before we hand the mic to the estate, I want to hear from you. If early readings hinted at trouble, should Graceland have said something the moment patterns appeared? Or was it wiser to wait until the science was airtight and the fix was mapped? Transparency calms rumor, but precision prevents panic. Where's the line when the place in question is sacred ground? Second, would you back a permanent preservation fund for the meditation garden? Something that quietly finances monitoring, maintenance, and emergency work without waiting for a crisis? Imagine every fan visit helping to keep the marble steady and the soil honest, year after year. Is that the future this place deserves? And if you care about Elvis's legacy, stick with us. Hit subscribe so you don't miss what's next, because we're about to unpack the hidden design choices Elvis baked into the garden, the small details almost no one notices, and how they nearly predicted this moment.